Okay, so good afternoon. This is a special meeting that we're calling by the Park Acquisition Corporation via video conference, and it's Tuesday the 13th at 1 p.m. And I'd like to call for approval of the final agenda.
I so move.
Okay,
I second with a correction, and that is that the next PAC board meeting is actually June 19th. That is the workshop meeting with the city. That's next week, and they are counting it as a PAC meeting because we will have a quorum of PAC members there. So with that correction, I second the amendment, the motion.
Yeah, I would suggest that just adding the word regular, because that would be the next regular PAC meeting. And then the special meeting would be an addition.
So you want to, okay. I second that amendment to the correction.
Okay.
okay. So the determination for the next PAC board meeting regular, it will still be on Monday, July the 3rd at 6 p.m. And we're having a special workshop meeting with the city to talk about the capital budget on the 19th of June from 2 to 6 right now.
In the clubhouse.
In the clubhouse. All in favor? Final agenda approved. Moving on to public comment for issues not on the agenda, and again, asking for a 3-minute limit on all comments to get a chance for everyone to have something to say. Let's see any hands raised.
Oh,
Anila. Unmute yourself, Anila.
Okay. I propose that we add to the duties of the PAC board. I don't know who should be doing this, but somebody who keeps an eye on the Nevada City Council agendas, because clearly they're not going to notify us about meetings that were being talked about beforehand. So it would be great if somebody could keep an eye on it and let us all know a little bit further ahead of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Anila. Any other comments? Todd and Michelle Rodriguez, I see your hand raised. Unmute.
Hi, thanks very much. I really appreciate this preparatory meeting before the city council and want to suggest that we also take the time to read all of the public works capital improvement reports that were conducted and try to get a little organized on attending that meeting next week regarding priorities for infrastructure and associated costs. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Michelle.
may I?
Yes, Caljoy.
May I just respond very quickly that we have all those reports, and that if anyone wants them, they can email who? Jay? Can you, or do you
I don't have them on a PDF, to tell you the truth.
Oh. Yeah, I don't
Well,
think
they can contact either myself or yourself or John Hanson specifically
I have
what
them
they're
also.
looking for. And Steve has them.
Okay, good.
Okay, any other public comment? Seeing none, moving on.
John,
I'm sorry, I didn't raise my digital hand. Could those reports be put on the website?
For Marin Valley, Anila, can you arrange that? Get them from Steve and put them up on the website?
What shape are they in now, Steve? Are they PDFs?
PDF.
There's something in chat that says that they are attached to from Michelle Rodriguez saying
Okay.
the reports are attached to the May 9th, 2023 City Council Staff Report.
Oh, those
Thank you.
reports. Yeah,
Thank
they're
you,
already
Michelle.
available.
Are they on the website? Our
No.
website?
Not that I know of. Irma's been
Can
doing
do it
that.
though, right?
Sorry?
You can put them on it, correct?
I haven't been on the
I can
website
do
for
it.
a few years.
Irma can do it. Yeah.
I do it.
Okay.
I keep up the website.
Let me know if you need them
Okay.
from me.
Okay, any other comments? Anyone else in the chat? I don't see any.
Yeah, my hand is raised, Jay. This is
Oh,
Ellen
okay.
Jane.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
there are 51 people now on the call. I don't know if you've all read the grand jury report, but you should. I think our relevant I had bad news this morning, but I think it's page 9 and 10 particularly that deal with us, and it's but you should
11
read
and
the whole
12.
report. Thank you.
Pages 11 and 12.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephen.
Okay, again, any other comments for items not on this agenda?
Well,
Yes, Irma.
I just want to say page 11 and 12 is on the website.
Ours?
Thank-
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Irma. Again, any other comments from the listening audience on items not on the agenda or for information? Okay, so let's move on to the consent calendar, having none, move on to reports, having none, old business, having none. And the new business is item 1, to discuss and prepare a response to the county grand jury report labeled Novato's chronic physical deficit, a call to action. So in general, I'd like to say is that this report, unbeknownst to us, was being prepared by the grand jury. And on Thursday, it was released. And since I checked that from time to time, I found out about it on Friday morning and alerted the rest of the board and whomever I could dial in for that report, and started reading it and going over it, and then call this general meeting so that we all have a chance to look at what that report said and to comment on it and to see if we could get ahead of it obviously being released to the public and now available to the city staff and the city council. And since they're going to be talking to us, and thank you for that comment, Mary. The idea is for us to be able to make our comments and understanding of what's going on to the residents and to help the PAC board and the residents to think about and to have a response to the city and also to the grand jury. On the outset, we weren't contacted about this investigation that was going on, and the information that we received in the form of their report and their recommendations doesn't seem to me justifiable, and that a lot of the information that was put forward in that report was very one-sided, and it didn't appear that it was factual. So Steve, our treasurer, Flusher, has been working very diligently in reviewing the material presented in that report for its factual representation. And it is a problem even on the outset, because in that report, it notes that the city of Novato hasn't had a audited financial statement for 3 years, and the 4 years back, it is still under review. So it's very difficult, as Steve, I'm sure, will tell us later, to factually be able to understand all of what is being said, simply because that information necessary for our operation hasn't been completely made available to us in a timely fashion. So in general, I think we need to listen to the people who have carefully analyzed this report and get a better understanding of what exactly was in it and how Marin Valley Mobile Country is being categorized and described, and to see if it makes real sense to us, whether it seems to be factual, which is, I think, the most important thing. I mean, in general, I'd like to say that we've been part of the Novato family since '97, when we helped arrange the purchase of the park from the previous owner. And it was set up as a nonprofit for low and moderate income individuals who wanted to live in Marin. And since that time, just for the last about 11, 12 years, we've contributed something to the effect of $500,000 in fees and oversight to the city of Novato, including owner's expense and taxes in lieu of taxes, and the monitoring of the rents that we pay. In other words, the city has a ordinance overseeing all mobile home parks in Novato to make sure that they're not raised more than the CPI. And we pay the city, or they charge us more than $18,000 a year to oversee their own approach to mobile home parks. Having said all that, I'd like to pass over to the board any general comments, and I'd like to ask Steve to comment specifically about it. Anyone on the board have any specific comments
Yes, I
about
do.
the report? Starting off with John Hanson. Thank you, John.
Well, the first thing I'd like to say on the report is that, there's a lot of misinformation on the report. We don't know the origin of that. Did the grand jury misunderstand what the staff said? Did the staff misrepresent the information? Or was it something else in between? Maybe it was an editorial. I don't know. Don't know the source of the misinformation, but we know that there is some of it there. The rest of the report, to me, that makes it suspect. If we know with regard to Marin Valley that it's that there's misinformation, what else is in the report that's misrepresented? So I can't put any faith in the report right now because I just don't know. It's a document, and that's all I know.
Thank you, John. Anyone else from the board who would like to make a general comment before I turn it over to Steve? See, there's some comment in the chat. Let me take a look here.
Carol Joy.
John?
Charles,
Jay,
yes, sure. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't
just
see it.
that's okay. In response to what John Hanson just said, I don't know about this report, but even within the report, they say that the city council often disregards what they are recommended by a certain commission. And as we know from reading the papers, the city council and other municipalities and the county, et cetera, often disregard what the grand jury's recommendations are. So we need to keep that in mind as well. it is the report does say that staff was interviewed and council members were interviewed. I just want to reiterate what Jay said, that nobody on the PAC board was interviewed, and I believe that neither was Matt Greenberg. So the city council, or I'm sorry, the grand jury was operating on limited information, in my view.
Thank you, Carol Joy. Anyone else? Yes, Jan Thomas.
You're muted.
Yeah,
Sorry
Go
about
ahead.
that. Regardless, I think we need to be able to, and that we can respond to their claims and discredit them. They're saying that we are not a low-income community, that the people here have money, and that our homes are not affordable, and that's BS. And we can dispute that. Also, you guys can, arrange the budget so that you guys can agree on how it's constructed, and you can pull us out of the money hole argument. But they're saying we're a money pit, that we're costing the city a lot of money, and that the city should seriously consider dumping us. That's it.
Thank you, Jan.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, someone just forwarded us a copy of what low and moderate income is in Nevada, and I mean, they're talking about, let's just say, an income of $60,000 or $70,000 to fit into the low moderate income level. And-
That person was me.
Oh, okay, thank you. And
You're welcome.
basically, so many of us are not having any steady income, and we're relying on our savings. Although it's expensive to live here, we find Marin County very hospitable, and we like to live here. So a lot of people have invested a lot of their savings that they've accumulated over their working and bought homes here, and then now are relying on just their investment income and income from Social Security. And if you're planning on living here for 10 or 15 years or longer, and you're not having an income of $70,000 or $80,000 each year, it's going to be a drain on your savings. So I think the argument of us not having the right demographic is quite silly. A lot of people retire, and they may have enough money to buy a mobile home house here for $300,000, maybe overpay for it, but then they're assuming they're going to be able to live in Marin in this low and moderate income community and be able to survive on their savings and their reduced income. So I think it's exactly what our purpose is, and I would like to see the city recognize that and to support continue to support this community. Again, I'd like to jump to Mary Curry having her hand raised.
Thank you. I'll try to be brief. Mary Curry, resident here on Clubview. I wanted to speak to process, because I think of the process with which the PAC moves forward is very important. And somebody's got their screen up there. Anyway, a grand jury is made up of citizens of the county of Marin, and they're selected by this board of supervisors. I actually was asked to serve on it at one point. You do it as a volunteer service. And they're set up specifically to investigate municipalities, special districts. And in my former role as the spokesperson for the Golden Gate Bridge, we were the subject of 2 grand jury reports over my 22 career years there. And it's the jurisdiction that will respond to the grand jury report. However, it's important that the PAC and the community create a very formal and detailed and very specific written response as we are highlighted on pages 10 and 11 or 11 and 12. So it should be a very formal, well thought out process. And I understand that today's intent is to get people's input and concern about the report, of which there's a number of inaccuracies. I just want to encourage you to go forward with the vision of really creating a formal response that details very specifically and carefully and strategically the issues in that report, in the grand jury report. I also wanted to point out that the city has until, I forget the date in October, they have 90 days to respond. So you want to get your response in likely within 30 days or so. So the city has the Marin Valley, a component of the response from your eyes. And then they have until December of this year to implement whatever plan they determine. There's no way in heck they're going to come up with much of a plan between now and December, but they'll have to implement something. So I just wanted to give a little background on process, and I'm here to help with that in any way that I can. I appreciate being a part of it.
Much
Thank you.
appreciated. Much appreciated, Mary. We'll continue to take comments from the residents until we turn it over to Steve, unless there's any objection to that. So I'd like to call on Marshall Krantz.
Marshall Krantz. I'm a relatively new resident on 46 Marin Valley Drive. Been here a couple of years. And one question I have a couple of questions, but one is, what is it are you looking for people to do tonight? What are you looking for responses, say, to the grand jury report, or even for line items on the budget? What would you like us to do tonight? And then I would like to just address the grand jury report, and maybe that's not something to address tonight at the meeting. I'd like to get some guidance on that. What is the action we want them to take?
We'll get to that.
Yeah, I was going to say let's wait on that, and we want to get a full airing.
Okay.
And then plan that approach. But this is very much the reason why we're having this meeting too. In fact, do that to prepare residents for comments tonight. What we would like to say to the city council about both subjects, and how best to do that, and how to follow up on it.
Yeah, so just so people know, if you want to comment electronically through the city website, you have until 3 o'clock this afternoon to do that. And just real quick on the, I was kind of switching over, so I don't know what you can see. I'm looking at the juror report, and I would think the first thing is, and I certainly don't have the numbers, I'm sure Steve and other people do, the grand jury report contests the basic position of the community here, that it's a self-sustaining community that operates with no financial support. And they say, however, documents and the staff show that the park is neither self-sustaining or independent of local government. So I think we need to show that. The other thing is there's a number of things here, and I guess someone else can also address the first.
I will be going over all those items.
Okay, there's a couple other things though that don't have to do with the numbers of the budget particularly, and that is they talk about in the last 2 bullet points. It's really talking about the residents here and the prices of the homes. I noticed that they say that affordable housing, that just 41% of the rented spaces are required to be occupied by lower moderate income residents. And I'm wondering, what is the demographic of the residents who are here, not the spaces that are required to be occupied? Because it makes it sound like the other 60 or 59% are by people above that. And I think what's moderate income should be compared to the median income in Marin, which is something around $130,000 according to the Census Bureau. And then also, it's very strange to me, the last bullet point, which talks about the prices, and with a median price of $347,000, which is about 1/5 of the median price of a home in Marin County. And that means that even the highest price home here was less than half of the median. So I think those should be addressed. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Marshall. We're gonna address most of that, if not all of it, and please hold in abeyance. And if we don't answer it and we don't come up with what you feel to be solutions or a way forward, come back and comment again after you've heard what we're going to go forward with. Pat Higgins.
Thank you. I'll be brief because much of what Marshall said are some of the points I wanted to make, that in the report, they say Marin Valley, isn't self-sustaining, and they point out the proposed pass-through of those federal funds for the pump stations. And to my knowledge, from going to the PAC meetings, we've always been self-sustaining. If you look at so as he said, we need to point out how we are. I did look at the utility expenses because I think that's one of the areas that they do want us to the city wants us to cover more. And it did look like it was in the black. So I guess, Steve, you'll prove this year. So you'll talk more about that.
Yes, we will.
And it was a little disconcerting in general, frankly, to read the entire report and see that, like, the city's accounting is so backlogged, and it has come up before that we get bills 4 years down the road for $500,000. And I hope the city is able to be better functioning in that regard. Thank you. And thank you, Marie, or was it Mary, for explaining the grand jury and what their role is. I was unaware of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Again, Jan Thomas, do you have another comment?
I do. I know Marie said that we had 90 days, or the city had 90 days to respond, but from reading prior city council meeting minutes, they're having a retreat in August in which they are going to work on their strategic plan, which is the plan to sell properties that they own that are not self-supporting, etc. And I think this grand jury report, if we don't refute it before that time, is going to weigh in their decision making, and they make decisions in August. I just think we need to. I don't think we have as much time as we would like, and we need to get this together quickly. And I can help you develop a survey, a questionnaire that will spell out the demographics in the park. The city council is not into sentimentality. They don't want to hear from each one of us about how, the rent increase or selling the park is going to impact our lives. They're going to want it in a report that they can look at. They're going to want it in a database. They're going to want it in the way bean counters look at things, because they're bean counters. So that's the way we have to present it. And if I can help you with a questionnaire, I will get on it, and people just have to be willing to respond, and so I can collect the data.
Thank you, Jan. As an aside, I would ask Anila or Carol Joy to just write down the names of people who are offering to help the PAC board prepare their response, and to work together with us to get a more fuller report. Any other comments from the people viewing this meeting?
I don't see myself. This is Laura.
Oh, okay, Laura. Hi.
I just wanted to say, I got something in an email that said it was enclosing that grand jury report. And when I opened it, no, it was just another copy of one of these meetings. For some reason, that report did not come through on the email to me that said that's what it was.
Yeah, Laura, it's on the website now. And if you can get to the clubhouse, it's in the computer. If you have a computer, it's on the website for Marin Valley, and you should be able to read it there.
Okay, I will try to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol Joy Harris.
May I just quickly say, before anyone gets off this call that the workshop, especially in regard to what Jan Thomas just said, the city council directed city staff to revise the budget, which for Marin Valley, which they're going to discuss at tonight's meeting, and also to work with the residents here, not just the PAC board, but everybody involved in workshops. And the first workshop is next week. That's the meeting on the 19th. And those workshops are to discuss the long-term sustainability of the park. So those are the ones that we need to have everybody on this call and all your friends come to. They are in person at the clubhouse. The first one is next Tuesday, the 19th at 2 o'clock. So that's the one where we need to come and present all these things about the long term. Today, we need to focus on what's going to happen at the city council meeting tonight.
I would like to turn the meeting over to Steve Plosher to discuss the financial aspects of the grand jury report and to give his feedback as to the legitimacy and the veracity of those reports or those figures. Steve?
Okay. This report reads like a tabloid newspaper from my point of view. It's almost everything about it is negative and untrue, except for some subtle messages in the last several paragraphs that the city's got some responsibility and they need to tighten up. But most of all, it's a critique of our community and our financial position that is mostly totally incorrect. I don't know why that is. We're going to go over it, but my first concern is we really need to somehow form a relationship with the city staff, because the way things are right now is not working. And we don't want to go to battle with them because we cannot win that battle. We need to somehow develop a working relationship. And as I go through this, you'll see why. In the first paragraph, however, city financial documents and a staff report presented to the city council on March 28th show that the park is neither self-sustaining nor independent of local government funds. Both of those ideas are wrong. We are self-sustaining and we are totally independent of local government funds. We are what's called an enterprise fund. An enterprise fund is like the university press at a university or the water department for a city or a county. It's a separate department that is expected to pay for itself. The city does not want to have to support that department. The university press, they don't want to have to provide for the press. They want to say, hey, go publish some books, get some deals, so you have income to cover your expenses. That's what we are. That's an enterprise fund. It is not a legal entity. There's no documents that establish, we're not a corporation. It's an accounting concept, but it is used for situations like ours. And the idea is that we are described as an enterprise fund in the annual audit of the city of Novato. That's the only place you're going to see that word, that the city of Novato has one enterprise fund in the form of Marin Valley Mobile Country Club. And that's where that is used. And the reference there is so that they know that we are an organization that will not put a financial burden on the city. We have to maintain ourselves, but there is a reason that the city is the owner. But other than that, we have to collect our own income and use it to pay all of our own expenses. And for those of you who may be knowledgeable about this park, the city essentially has never put a penny into this park. One could argue that the recent grant of $3 million was an infusion from the city, but that was actually just some work that the city did, which they will bill us for to acquire a federal grant. Those are federal monies that are paying for the 2 pump stations. Okay, the report goes on to say, the report shows that the past 4 fiscal years, MVMC's expenses have exceeded revenues by a total of more than 3.6 million. That is just blatantly false. I don't know where they get their numbers. I have all the financial statements for the park, the same financial statements that Jay and I go over with Chris Blunk every year. So there's not that there's a separate set of financials that they have. I think they may not know what income and expense mean. Maybe they don't know how to read them. I don't know who came up with this comment, but I can show any of you or any of them in any moment that we actually had profits in all of those years. And even after those profits, you see, profits are the income less the expenses. The expenses do not include paying the principal on a mortgage or making capital investments in the park. Those are not expenses. Expenses are things that you burn through in 1 year. Office supplies, telephone expense, insurance, things that just happen all the time, recurring expenses. Capital expenses like building a huge retaining wall that's going to last for 50 years. Those are not expenses, those are capital investments. So our income before capital investments or paying the bank loan is generally around $1 million every year. Even after that, even after making those capital investments and paying the bank loan, we have an average of 460,000 in each of those 4 years left over to go into the surplus, the red reserves. Now, that's not a lot when you look at the future projects we have planned, but it's not zero, and it's certainly not a $3.6 million deficit. So this is the kind of stuff that is throughout this report. It's shocking. I don't know what kind of accounting they're using. Like I said in the beginning, we really have to work on our relationship with the city staff because this is intolerable. This is a failure to communicate, a failure to share information, so many things. So
Steve, can I just jump in for 1 second?
1 second.
Okay. One of the things that we've heard subsequent to that is that there is a insurance ledger that the city claims that they have been paying for us without notifying us of even the existence of these policies. And we suddenly got a very large bill of hundreds of thousands of dollars for these insurance coverages, which we haven't been informed of for the last 3 or 4 years, and neither has the Helsing Group been informed of. So this is a highlight also on the city's accounting, because they're receiving bills that we should be paying yearly and not even telling us about them, and perhaps paying them. I guess they do pay them, but now suddenly after 3 or 4 years, they're coming back and giving us a request for a lump sum payment. I'm sorry I just jumped in, but I wanted to clarify where some of these ideas may be promulgated that we've been operating in the red. If we didn't know about an expense, how can we possibly include it in our analysis?
Well, yeah, that's what I was alluding to, and I'm saying we have to somehow revive our living relationship with the city staff in regards to communication and in regards to timeliness in providing this stuff. Yes, what Jay's talking about is 900,000 in past insurance invoices that they have not submitted to us for the past 5 years. I mean, I read them the Riot Act in an email 3 days ago. That how could you do this? We're supposed to be participating in the budgetary process every year so that we come out showing not a loss, and you're withholding this kind of expenses from us. Could have changed a lot of things. We may have tried to arrange the budget differently. We may have gone for a rent increase sooner. It's unconscionable that they would behave that way.
Steve, one thing I'd like to mention there is that there's right now with the information that we have, there's nothing to say that those figures are correct or have any meaning. They might have been errors that the city made from from the junior high school kids or whoever they hire for their accounting. And that just doesn't have any real meaning to us. And the city
Well,
just doesn't know that. That's what
They
I
actually provided a list.
Steve, you got froze there for a second. You got knocked off. While we're waiting for Steve to come back on, Mary Curry, can you respond?
Yeah, yeah.
Give us please, people, just let me talk. I'm just getting started. And I'm probably going to cover what you want to say. Thank you. So there's that. Let's moving on. Over $200,000 per year of utility costs are not fully covered through pass-through charges. You all know that we do not have water meters. We bill for electricity and gas because we can measure those things. We cannot measure the water you use. So that's our water bill is about $110,000 every year. And we figure about 90% of it is the residents, but we can't bill.
Steve, you just got knocked off again.
Bill is the common areas, the clubhouse, the pool, the bathrooms up there, etc. So the park general fund has to pay the water bill until someday we come up with some sort of metering, which at the moment seems very expensive. So that's probably not going to happen anytime soon. The remainder of that 200,000 is simply the park's share of the electricity, which is quite a lot because that takes care of the clubhouse, the pool, all the lights and air conditioning, and the electricity for the lights throughout the park and common spaces, the laundromat. So there's no mystery there. This is not a problem. That's a fact of life at the park that they're trying to say is a major problem. Continuing, the report says, since 1997, the city has relinquished the bulk of oversight and decision-making to the PAC board. Huh. Nothing could be further from the truth. The city has relinquished nothing. There's almost no element of our existence at MVMCC where the PAC board makes anything close to a final decision. We're volunteers. We aren't paid. We don't have any paid staff. We don't even have an office or any hours. You can't call up a PAC number and talk to us. There's nobody there. We are an advisory and a liaison board between the city and you guys, the residents. We can't be in charge of anything like that. The city owns the park. They have final say and first say on everything. Our biggest role is to contribute our opinion and our advice when they call on us, which happens every year with the budget. And oftentimes during the year, if there are changes to the budget, if there are large items occur that have to be dealt with, they will solicit our input because we live in the park and it's a pretty big factor if they're going to be digging up the ground and closing off streets. So that's about the extent of our involvement. Always, they have never relinquished any of that to us. And they go on to say, a delegation agreement assigns responsibilities to the PAC, such as hiring of a park management company. Yes and no. We're supposedly supposed to hire the management company, but actually the city does the hiring. They do most of the investigating and inquiring, and they discuss the money that's going to be paid to the management company. We're just available to kind of agree and post our questions and so forth, just like I said a minute ago. They go on to say PAC is supposed to be preparing annual budgets. How can we prepare annual budgets? We're not the owner. Budgets are prepared first by the management company. They generally start with the prior year and add things to the expenses. And then it goes to the city staff. City staff's going to make some changes based on the knowledge they have. We wish they would have made some more changes on those insurance policies. They didn't, but now we're in arrears on those. So then finally it comes to us. And we meet with Chris Blunk and give him our opinion on the budget. But as far as PAC being responsible for preparing the budgets, no way. And it goes on and on. PAC is responsible for accumulating funds in the long-term maintenance. PAC has no access or control over the reserve funds. Generally speaking, we don't even know where those funds are, what they're earning. We don't put deposits into them. Only the management company or the city can do that. We have no access to those funds or control over them. We are not signatories to those accounts. So as far as being responsible for accumulating the funds, I don't think so. We have no part in that other than to work with Matt to help fulfill the budget process during the year. PAC is responsible for submitting financial reports to the city. We don't have a hired bookkeeper. We don't have a hired accountant. We don't have access to the checkbook and this deposit. How could we make financial reports? The management company does that. And then finally, here's a good one. The city council consistently defers to PAC regarding rental increases. That'll be the day. Actually, within the last 7 years, there have been 2 years where myself and some others of us have gone up before the PAC and protested rental increases. Some of you remember those. I did that the first year I was here. I didn't even know what I was saying. Somebody handed me a script and I read it.
No, see, before the city council, you said before PAC.
Before the city council. Yeah. So rent increases. In all the other years, Jay and I meet with Chris and he'll say, we're not proposing any rent increase this year. And Jay and I kind of look at each other and say, nice. And so, you know, we would not say, oh, well, we really should because there's weakness in the reserves and we want to put more money in there. As a controller, I might do that, but I know I'm representing 315 people in the park. And a regular rent increase is going to be hard for a lot of people. So we're not anxious to push that side of it. But have never been, the city has never deferred to PAC regarding rental increases. They may have acquiesced to our protests in a few years. I don't think that's the same thing. The city intended the MCC to be self-sufficient with revenues coming entirely from tenants paid rental fees. Yet at PAC's request, the city council has not raised rental fees since 2016, freezing rental income despite increasing park expenses. Like I just said, we have never requested to have a rent increase not happen except for 2 years out of those 7. This just gets better and better. Now the sewer thing, they're saying.
Wait, excuse me, and that wasn't PAC, that was individual residents. It wasn't PAC per se.
That's true. Any other objections at the moment?
Yeah, I just like to comment on the budget procedure. After we give the budget to the city, in other words, perfunctory, the management prepares the budget based on the information that they have. And why I say that is if the city withheld those insurance policy premiums and they didn't know about them, their figures are greatly distorted as a result of that. But the management prepares a budget, we look at it and we just pass it on to the city. The city reviews it and makes recommendations after consulting with management and with us to the city council. The city council at that point approves or disapproves the budget and then sends it back to PAC to approve it. At that point, we write a letter saying we approve the budget, or we accept the budget, but we would have liked to see a rent increase, or we would have liked to see this item increased or decreased. So we can comment after they've approved, and it has absolutely no influence on whether that budget that they approved will have any changes in it. Steve?
Shall I continue? Is this boring or do you want me to continue with the report?
Oh, continue, please.
May I just interrupt to say that, in my opinion, all this that you're talking about is fantastic, but I think it more relates to the workshop next week. Whereas today, there's one thing on the city council's agenda tonight regarding Marin Valley, and it's not the grand jury report. It's the budget. And that, as Mary Curry, who so helpfully has explained to us, if we start talking about the grand jury report when it gets to our item on the agenda, they're going to stop us and say, I'm sorry, that's not what we're talking about. So in order to talk about the grand jury report vis-a-vis MVMCC tonight, we would have to do it in public comment. If we did so, they do not have to respond. In fact, they're actually prevented, as we know from the Brown Act rules, they're prevented from responding. But they are required to respond to the grand jury report, including the part about Marin Valley, as we know. There is a workshop, I keep saying this, the workshop at the clubhouse next week is to go over this. So from my perspective, I think what we really need to be doing today is to talk about the particular things that we question in the budget, and that we talk about how we're going to address that tonight, either as individuals or.
Cal's right. Item 2 on new business is exactly that. So why don't we wait and hold that until we get to that? Right now, we're reviewing for the residents and for the PAC board, Steve's response to the grand jury report, which is obviously very damning to Marin Valley Mobile Country Club and could influence the decisions going forward that the city will take towards our budget. But let's first go through it sequentially, and then we're going to decide how to respond to these after the information is on the table. So I'd like to return to Steve to finish his report.
Yeah, I'll try and wrap this up. And in line with what Carol Joy said, I will finish up telling you what our plans were for tonight and that we have changed them. Most of this is just, they talk about the houses in Marin Valley and then what they cost. And it's a paragraph that you wonder, why is this in here? Do they think that houses in Marin Valley should not cost this much? Or there's a lot of copy in here that you question, is it almost like it has attitude, like they're unhappy that we're doing this in Marin Valley. In a recent 3-year period, 28 homes were sold for prices ranging from $110,000 to $717,000 with a median of $347,000. Okay, is this bad, good? What is the point of this comment here? It seems like they're making they want to make a critical comment, but I'm not sure what the issue is there. There's nothing wrong with that statement. So then they go on, even if enacted immediately, incremental rental fee increases that meet rent control requirements cannot provide the revenue needed by MVMCC's projected financial needs. It is simply too little too late. Wow. Shall we just go out and close the door? I mean, this is somebody's opinion. And that's why I start out saying I'm just very disappointed in the city staff. When you're angry with your friend, you go talk to them about it. You don't go talk to everybody else and tell them he's a bad guy. You go to the horse's mouth. Why don't they talk to us if they have these feelings? So much of it is anger and criticism. And as I say, not based on solid financial data. Let's skip to the end here. So after reading this, I talked to Jay and we thought we should make a response at tonight's meeting. So I prepared a document that addresses each one of these paragraphs I've been reading to you. Prepared responses, and then we had it in 4 different pieces because you can only talk for 3 minutes. So we were essentially going to talk for 12 minutes rebutting this document. Then I had a talk with Mary Curry, and she emphasized that, well, you know, tonight's meeting is really about the budget. And the staff and the city council, they're hot to trot to really resolve the budget issues and continue working on it because it's a very hot item with the city of Novato, including our little budget, which is a piece of that. Nothing like the deficit they're dealing with. So it would seem like to throw our critique of this into the flames tonight, expecting them to really hear us, is probably not the best idea. If anything at all, we might make a brief comment tonight about our disappointment with the grand jury report and leave it at that. And wish them well in their budget deliberations, maybe a few comments. We can do this at the beginning of the meeting because it has nothing to do with the budget. But if we want to make budget contributions, we're gonna have to wait till later in the meeting when the budget comes up. So, yeah, we were all prepared to do this delivery this evening. I had the speakers lined up. They all had their parts. And, but I'm thinking, and I think everyone agrees with us, that we're not going to do that. We're going to pursue a different approach. And at another time, possibly in the meetings we're having with them, we will bring up these items and really request a better form of communication and sharing if we're going to work together on the future of Marin Valley. So that's about all I have to say.
Thank you. Members of the board, I can take your comments at this point. Are there anyone who wants to add or speak on Steve's report?
Right here.
Oh, hey, John, go ahead.
Yeah, well, Steve, yeah, I applaud you on all the work that you've done on this. It sounds great. It just kind of takes my thoughts right out of my head and you know, and you've spoken them. But, you know, as far as what I do think that we do need to present something on that tonight. Yes, it does need to be in public comment, but the city has a lot on their plate. You know that, I think we all know that at this point, but they need to understand that we have some very, very grave concerns regarding the accuracy of that report and the meaning of it, the origin of it. And we should let them know that we're very disturbed by that report. It doesn't take a lot to say that. So I agree with you that we should let them know, and then we can get on to the budget. But it also puts a light on the budget. If we tell them that, hey, this is all a bunch of bunk, and you know, politely, you know, then it sheds a light on the budget. Okay, what in the budget then is also a bunch of bunk, or if anything, I don't know. It's a valid question. I guess that's what I'm saying, is that that report makes it a valid question as to whether the budget is reliably put together.
Thank you, John. And aside to that, the budget that is being presented to the city council is not for their approval. They sent back the budget to staff saying, consider, instead of raising rents of 5.7% and 5% in January, they said, take a look at it and see if you can adjust the expenses and come in with a rent increase of 5%. And they sent it back to the staff to look at that. What the staff is presenting to the city council tonight is, again, not for their approval, but it is a response to their request that they look to see if they can bring the DSCR to 2.1. So tonight they are going to look at the reconfigured budget, attempting to get to a DSR acceptable. And then we are going to have this meeting on the 19th to discuss the capital budget and also the operating budget. And then they are going to then vote on that budget for acceptance or approval at some later date. So just to be clear of what's going down. I see a few hands raised here. I'd like to start with Mary Curry again.
Okay.
Yeah, hey, I just wanted to follow up with a couple of things. Thank you, Steve, for going through that. And I know you put a lot of work into it, and it won't go to the wayside because it'll be the foundation of the formal response. I think the sort of strategic thinking might include creating this formal response to the grand jury as soon as possible. And then I think, working with the city staff, having been a quote, civil servant for all of my career, I know what it's like to be on the receiving end of a lot of emails, angry emails, upset emails from the public and from boards such as this. And I think what works best is if you help the staff do their job. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but rather than sending them all of the negative barrage, what you want to do is yes, make the formal response to the grand jury report, but also start looking at ways that you can help the staff. And by that, I mean, maybe, something like creating a fact sheet that the city council can review and that the staff can review about Marin Valley and who we are and what the numbers really show. So you give something back to them that they can use to work with and not feel so barraged. I mean, I was understaffed, and you're constantly getting input, and it's hard to keep up with it. It's overwhelming, and I took it to heart. You want to do the right thing as a public servant, at least generally. And then the other thing, I know that there was a comment in the chat about going to the media. I would be very careful in the timing of going to the media. They may be at the city council meeting tonight, but I think it's in the community's best interest, the PAC's best interest, to develop this response. And then I would go to the editorial board at the IJ and make an appointment with them and get them on our side. And then you've got it, it's in the bag. And we wouldn't go down the tubes, if you will, with the city of Novato's financial problems. We could separate ourselves from that. And in lieu of going to the editorial board, you could sit down with Will Houston. I believe he's the guy that covers Novato, and go through it all with him. I wouldn't reach out to them right now. You want to prepare your remarks, prepare your formal response, and be ready to have it very well organized.
Thank you, Mary. Kamala, unmute.
And I'm going to lower my hand here.
You got it.
Okay. So I just wanted to say that it seems to me that I'm an outsider here, but it seems to me that somebody is, has a foregone conclusion about our situation here, and that it warrants not only responding to them, but really setting up, really putting some energy into setting up more of a communication channel with the people who are the arbiters of our fate here in the park. I think that should be a really big topic, as well as responding to them about how weird this report is and how strange the numbers are. And I think tonight I agree with John Hanson. I think it's, since the budget is kind of in a way being based on somewhat on this, that it should be brought to the attention that it's really totally wrong, and something has to be done about their ways of collecting data, you know?
Yeah, thank you. The, of course, the idea is that a half-truth is more dangerous than a lie. And what I see in that grand jury report is some half-truths and conclusions drawn out from those half-truths to support a valid conclusion. So the conclusions in that come out of that grand jury report, as Steve has so aptly pointed out, are seriously incorrect and not complete. So therefore, how can you draw conclusions from that? So we're going to, for sure, prepare a response to the grand jury. And at the end of this meeting, we're going to have a plan on how to approach to the city council. I'd like to go back to Dave's phone, whoever Dave is at this point. Dave?
Yeah, hi. I was the one who had talked about trying to work with the press on this. And the only reason I'm saying it is from all the meetings that I've listened to, it sounds like the city doesn't have any respect for us in some significant ways. And we don't really have a relationship. And I think part of having a relationship with someone who is maybe in this situation a partner is to say, I want to work with you, or send them a message. We want to work with you. But there are certain things and certain behaviors that are totally off bounds. And we'll do whatever we'll do something to address that kind of egregious behavior. I worked in government too, did a lot of public outreach on Superfund sites. And I know that it's a sort of a balancing act. But I just want to stress that it doesn't seem like there's a functional relation. It seems like we're in an abusive relationship here. And we need to send a message out that we'll take any actions we need to end that abusive relationship. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Dave. Dave, Bill Davis, if I see your hand raised, if you can unmute yourself and pass your comments to us.
Okay. Thank you. I think we need to divide this properly. Tonight on the agenda, they're talking about the budget going forward, and all that is essentially a guesstimate based on the history of where the expenses were last year and how it's going to be sorted into what buckets going forward for this year, and say, yeah, this is what we're going to do. They're required to put this up by the 1st of July, I believe, is their beginning of their budget year. They have to have that in place. It's not in place. Going to vote on it to put it in. And it's not much more than that. But the other part that we're getting into now is going to be for that meeting that we're going to be having. When's that? The next couple of days. That's where it's going to be sorted properly, how we're going to justify and talk about the improprieties, errors that are made in the grand jury report that they have spent to. So at that time, we can weigh appropriately. Let's not confuse the two. Let's go forward tonight with direction from you guys right now is how we should respond to that budget that they're putting forward. In other words, you would agree with it or not. That's what they're going to have to make a vote on, 3-2 or 5-0, whatever they go with. Thank you.
Again, I'll just reiterate my remarks, Bill. This is just to accept the staff's revised figures for the budget, and as you correctly said, the meeting that we're going to have on the 19th to go over the capital budget will also impact and deal with the operating budget, so that they won't approve both budgets or the budget until after that June 19th meeting. So definitely we're going to prepare for that June 19th meeting. And we're going to further consider what kind of steps or what kind of brief response we're going to have to the grand jury, so that the city council, who is independent of the grand jury, can at least know that we are not in accord with the facts and the outcome of that grand jury, and that the assumptions drawn out from that are not, in our belief, reality. So let me just jump back to Jan again. Do you have another comment?
I do, probably more than you want to hear. I want to say that all of the suggestions Mary Curie made, I think were golden. I think it's premature to go to the press, but I don't think we want to rule that out. I think Carol Joy is right. We have to focus on what we're going to do tonight. And I think it's a good idea to have a spokesman just go up there and say that we are disappointed in the grand jury report, but I think a bunch of us have to show up and we have to identify ourselves as Millville. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the stupid song of Marin, as Marin Valley residents. I don't care if we put a sign around our neck like the stupid vaccine card that says MVMCC, but they need to know that we are paying attention. And I think we that'll buy us some time between now and Monday. Monday, we have to really muster our forces and be there. And we have to have our shit together to talk to them about the budget. I also want to say that in the old days, I've been here 20 years, before Matt, before the Helsing group, when Al Fry managed the park, you knew that Al Fry and his people were involved in the budget. And PAC didn't have to take all the flack for it. Al Fry would actually come to city council meetings and speak on our behalf about the budget. And where the hell are the Helsing group people to be there for us? That's all.
Thank you, John. Any other public comment? Seeing none.
Wait,
Carol Joy's waving her hand.
I think
Oh, okay.
Dave Teta has his hand up, so you should take him before you take me.
Okay, Dave Petta.
No, I apologize. My hand's up from
Okay.
before.
All right.
Take it
then
back.
My turn. My background, part of it is in marketing, and what happens in marketing and advertising is repetition is what works. So as many people who can go tonight to the city council meeting, or either in person or phone in by phone, and say the same thing over and over so that the city council hears it. And people have said to me, residents in the park have said to me, well, why don't you tell the city council that we've never cost them a cent? And I say, well, I said that at their meeting on May 2nd. I said it at the meeting on May 16th. John Hanson said it. Jay Shelfer has said it. Jay and I have said it countless times in 2x2 meetings. We've said it over and over. Steve Ploker has said it over and over. So if other people, if anyone who can goes, just put a card in and say, hello, my name is XYZ. I live at Marin Valley. And it is my understanding from my knowledge of the financials and attending PAC board meetings and city council meetings that we have been self-sustaining and continue to be so. Something like that, just repeating over and over. We're not costing you guys a dime.
The city council is not the culprit here. They like us. Actually, 3 of the 5 people on the council are really tight with us. So we're not scared about their activity, but the city staff is hired by the city council, so to speak, underneath the city manager. And that's where the communication problem is with all the statements and funding. And we suspect those are the people who were interviewed for the grand jury report. But I agree with Carol. Did I interrupt you? Did you want to? I agree with Carol Joy. If a lot of people could go tonight and say, 1, we're disappointed with the grand jury report. We think there's a lot of errors there, but don't elaborate. This is not the focus of tonight. And then say something like, we wish you luck in your budget deliberations, and just keep it brief, because they got a lot on their plate. But we'll let them know we're watching, and we're disappointed.
Well, and we look forward to working with them going
Yes.
forward, and the first meeting's next week, and we can't wait to work with you.
Yes, that will be working with the city council, and that's, I think, gonna be a much more positive event. It's weird, when we have meetings with them, it's like the city staff is there on the side and they rarely say anything. It'd be nice if everybody was participating, so I don't know how to make that happen.
Well, this is supposed to be a workshop with council and PAC and staff. It's supposed to be
Yeah,
a
let's
workshop.
see what happens.
And residents, please.
Yeah, everybody.
Thank you. Mary Curry, your hand's up again.
Yeah, I'm concerned about you calling out the forces tonight.
Oh,
I just don't really think it's going to get you anything. I think it's going to upset the council, upset the staff. They've just been hit over the head with this horrible, horrible report. They feel like shit. And then, excuse me, and then if we come in there for our pages 10 and 11 and hit them again, I don't think it's serving you. And I just wanted to say that for the record.
One person?
Yeah, I mean, a handful of people, and indicate that you had a special meeting today to talk about it and that people are upset and that you look forward to working with them. But I think an assault on the report in front of the council tonight isn't going to serve you.
Mary Curry, I really appreciate what you're saying, and it does seem to focus a lot of the comments in the chat and the comments that we've heard speaking. So I would like to propose that we assign one person to compose a report or a statement, a simple statement regarding our dismay and misunderstandings that were brought forward, without going into detail, but just let them know that we know that this is incorrect, and that we're looking forward to that June 19th meeting to work with both the city council and the staff to come up with a clear understanding going forward. So again, I'd like to propose that we assign Steve and Mary C. to compose a very brief statement to be made on the behalf of the PAC board and the residents concerning that. Not to say that any other comments from residents should be discouraged, but that the PAC has this general comment.
Funny you should mention that, because Mary and I have been working on that since yesterday. We'll refine it and have a good message.
Well, go ahead, Carol.
I'd be happy to deliver that if you want a speaker, because I'm going anyway. Bill and I are going. Oh, shoot. And I lost my.
I prefer Steve as treasurer, frankly.
Oh, okay. Whatever. Oh, I know what my question is how do, because I have received some specific questions from people who have questions about line items in the budget that they would like to ask or have the PAC board ask. And how
Carol Joy, that's item 2 on new business. Let's get through this first.
You're right. Thank you.
I saw briefly Michelle Rodriguez. Did she have something with your hand up, Michelle?
No, I think I'll talk about the budget.
Okay, Gail Roberts, would you like to have something to say?
Yes, I have a question. First of all, I want to thank everyone because I really not participated in this, although I was indeed disturbed by the information that my husband and I received. The question I have, whether it be for Steve or yourself or whomever has the answer, is what Ellen said with regard to the city keeping $5 million in reserve in a virtually non-interest bearing account at Umpqua Bank, now possibly under investigation for possible fraud. I don't understand that. If I could have some clarification, I would appreciate it.
That's a budget question. We'll get to it.
Marshall,
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, just getting back to addressing the council about the grand jury report. To me, sort of top level would be is just saying that the report itself is incomplete, in that the grand jury didn't talk with the PAC president or treasurer or the general manager. And so the report has to be incomplete, and that I think the city council, which has come under criticism from the grand jury, will be sympathetic to that. And it doesn't really have to be any kind of criticism of direct criticism of the staff. But to me, that's the top level, is that they didn't actually gather all the information they needed to gather to come to a conclusion that really is valid. Thank you.
absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. And one more time, Mary Curry, again, your hand is raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow to Marshall's point. It's the grand jury only talks to the public agency. So they would not talk to an entity such as the Marin Valley Country Club in a grand jury investigation. They just wouldn't. So it's really on the city to have provided them accurate information, which clearly that has not happened based on what we're seeing. So I just wanted to add that point.
Thank you. Carol Joy, should we not vote on the issue of having Mary C. and Steve Plosher prepare something to present to the county or to the city council tonight?
I'm not sure. It couldn't hurt. I mean, it's on the agenda, so prepare a response. Well, it's not really a response to the report. No, so no, we don't.
No.
So we'll just go ahead. We'll just
Yeah,
go
it's,
ahead and have Steve and Mary C. prepare a statement and have Steve present it.
Yeah, they're like a committee. So
That's right.
Shall I present it as if I'm speaking for myself or the PAC board?
Should be the PAC board.
I would say the PAC board as well.
yeah, so in that
Identify
case-
yourself as the treasurer of the PAC board, that you attended a meeting to discuss the issues, and we have this to say.
Right, in that case, Steve, you need to send a copy, just pro forma, send a copy to all the people on the PAC board. Yes.
Yeah.
And if that can be prepared, as Marshall said, or Bill said, before 3 o'clock, so it'll be on everybody's desk at the meeting.
No, it's not
Well,
part of the.
we
it's
gotta
not an
hurry
agenda
up.
item. Those things that you can put electronic messages to them, those are only for agenda items.
Right.
This is not.
However, you can, if you go in person, you can hand a copy to the city clerk when you hand her your card to speak, and you can hand her 8 copies, and if they so choose, they can pass them out, or maybe she would let you do that.
And or 5 copies.
I would do 8, because there's the 5 council members, the city manager sits there, and the city attorney sits there. That's 7, and then they might have the finance person sitting there, so that's 8, and the clerk 9.
We can do that.
Yeah.
Make it 10.
Yeah, there you go.
And I should get there 15 minutes early to do that?
Yeah.
At least.
At least.
Okay, moving on to item 2, review and discuss the draft MVMCC budget to presented that will be presented to the city council tonight by city staff.
Okay, my question is, how do we get the particular questions that people have submitted to me, and I presume other board members? How do we get those questions to the city council or to the clerk, so that they can answer these questions? How do we, what's the process?
They
Very
won't
safe.
answer, I was just gonna say, they won't answer questions during a public hearing. It's a public hearing where you just submit your comments. So I added into the chat just now the line items that I have questions about. So I think that if the PAC wants to, you collect all the line items that people have questions about, and then you submit them all at once. That here, we have questions about these line items. Here they are.
And
But I
would we do that the same way? We would just make a bunch of copies and hand them to the city clerk?
In this case, you just submit one comment because it's going to get shared with everybody after the public hearing. There'll be a record of the public hearing, a formal record.
So you stand up and you say, I have comments and I have questions and I've handed them to the city clerk for your review after the meeting.
Right, we'd like them submitted to the record for consideration. And you could read a couple of them, you know, say, look, we have some refinements we're curious about, and here they are.
I think
Michelle, do you have?
I think clarifying further there, the purpose of this evening's meeting regarding budget is to take questions from the public, for the council to consider them, and then for the council to direct staff whether to do any further actions on them or not, and to return in 2 weeks with the revised budget. And at that meeting, the council will adopt that budget, which will apply to us in effect of July 1. So the warning would be, if you submit questions that the council's unprepared to review, they will not necessarily take time to direct staff to answer them because they're in such a short turnaround.
So what should we do?
But they legally have to consider the questions that are posed, or the comments. They don't have to be questions, they can just be comments. We don't like that the fire abatement is reduced by 100,000. I mean, they have to consider it. They can blow it off, but they have to, you know, technically.
That's something I should respond to, because a lot of people might hear that and be freaked out. The reason fire abatement is being reduced by so much is because of the Greater Novato Shady Fuel Break program is taking over a lot of those costs for the coming year. They are going to be paying for the goats. They're going to be paying for hacking down the trees in the forest that need to be removed. So much of what we paid for last year, that cost will be borne by a different entity this year. And that's good for us. That's off our budget, but it's still going to happen.
Well, then.
That's all in your echo that you haven't received yet.
I have another basic question that several people, like 3 or 4 people have asked me or said, you know, can PAC ask about this? And that's the huge increase in the insurance. Can you talk about that?
Oh boy, that's the elephant in the room. That's what has been mentioned several times already in this meeting. This just happened about 4 days ago. And as I told you, I really sent them a scathing email when I found out about it. What happened, what was in the budget was 200,000 for our general liability, property and liability, and 65,000 for Marval insurance. I'm thinking, what? Wait a minute. I go back and look at the 4 previous years, and our insurance is about 90,000, 100,000. Marval is 8,500. So how did we get from 8,500 to 65,000 for Marval, and 100,000 to 200,000 for the park? So I told Chris, your budget's wrong. You got to fix these numbers. Well, he did. But a couple of days later, or maybe a week later, he came back to me and said, no, Steve, the city staff says those numbers are correct, that there are 11 insurance policies for the park. They total over 200,000 every year for the last 4 or 5 years. I guess rates went up after all the fires, something like that. And the city just hasn't been billing them to you. They've been paying them, but you haven't been paying for all of your insurance. And I'm going, what?
How can they put that?
How can they function like that? We go to budget meetings every year and base it on certain understandings. And it was all false pretenses because they didn't show us the whole truth.
So how can they put that all in 1 year?
Well, that's a good
paid it.
question, really, because.
One at a time, please.
They have
Yeah.
paid it, and now, so there's 900,000 in unbilled insurance, there's about 450,000 in uncredited investment earnings, and nets out to about 450,000, they're going to take it from our reserves. They can't put it in the budget, that would really mess up the DSCR.
Oh, I see.
John Hanson, please.
Yeah, I wanted to make the point that they went back several years to pull this out, apparently.
Yeah.
And the information I got previously from the city staff, when asked about the money that we provided for the city to purchase the TPO land so that they could do a switcheroo with the zoning in Hamilton and make a big profit on it. Asking that of the city council, they said, oh, those books are closed. We can't do that. And now what they're doing is exactly that. So
Not sure it's the same
I
thing.
can't trust the city council. I mean, excuse me, I can't trust the city staff because I don't know what the truth is. I get different responses. And even if I do not get a response from them, it would be something like, that's none of your business, or we own you, we'll do what we want. And, so when I get responses like that, it makes me a little reluctant to trust the city staff. And even with the grand jury report, we don't know where that information came from. Was that somebody on the staff that did that? Or was that, I mean, how could a grand jury misinterpret information so blatantly and so much of it? So, a lot of questions there for the city to deal with.
I agree, we can't fire them, and we don't want to go to war with them. We're gonna have to figure out a way to develop a working relationship.
That's right, but we need to understand that, that they're not, they can't be trusted carte blanche.
Yeah.
That, they've, I don't have a lot of trust in the city staff right now,
Sure.
but.
We've been going for an hour and a half, and I'd like to take a 10-minute break, if that's acceptable for everybody, and we'll come back and we'll finish up.
How about 5?
I need to leave at 3, I have a client.
Okay, 5 minutes. I have a reason for asking this.
Bathroom break.
Yes, thank you. So I'll see you in 5 minutes.
5, set your watch.
Stop. I thought I was off. I purposely thought I was off, and then I saw down the bottom. I was up here looking. Okay.
Okay, I'd like to call back the meeting back to order. Are we all here? Or
That's
most
3.5 minutes.
of- 3.5 is all, okay. While we're waiting to start the meeting, I just fielded a call from Chris Blanc, and he wanted to know whether we would read him into the agenda that we're preparing for the June 19th meeting, so he could prepare for it. So that's something that we can work on, in the sense that Carol Joy Harris and myself will prepare the agenda for that June 19th meeting, since it's going to be held here. So any input from either residents or the PAC board, we can take into consideration and add it to the agenda, and then pass it on to the city staff so they can hopefully prepare for the discussion. And he again reiterated the fact that today they're not voting on the budget, they're just looking at the revised comments, which we're going to continue to talk about in item 2 and. So I'd like to start the meeting again. If anyone has any comments about the draft budget tonight that's being presented, to prepare comments and questions that we will be able to submit under Mary's suggestion. Mary suggesting that we make our comments known to the city council, so they can prepare to consider and perhaps pass on to the staff any questions that we may have, both as residents and the PAC board.
Okay, break's over.
Okay, so what items do we want to prepare to present to the city staff about today's presentation on the budget? John Hanson.
Well, I would say number one, they want to increase the rent, which may or may not be justified, because I really don't know what that budget means. There's too many numbers on there that are questionable to me, and a little suspect. The insurance is just one of those, actually 2 of those. But there's other things in there too that are just suspect to me. So projecting right now to raise interest, raise rents. I would like to see myself a satisfactory budget before raising the rent to fill it. Right now, it's just not based on good information. In fact, the first thing that I recall the city said was that they wanted to raise the rent. And it's, right off the bat, makes me wonder why. I have a bunch of other things to put in there as well, but the other thing about paying rent, for capital improvements over the years in the future, I don't particularly like the idea of doing that, because what it amounts to is paying it forward. Now, we've been paying off the loan for years. We have about 2 more years to go if we have to continue paying for that. But to start to consider also saving money for projects that are many years in the future is paying it forward. A lot of the people that would be paying that money in out of increased rents won't be living here to benefit from what they're paying for. So I would suggest that that as far as capital expenses being paid by rental or by our through our reserves, that be limited to a much shorter period of time, so that the people actually paying for that are getting benefit from it. Over the long term, we can look for other sources of income. We have plenty of time to do that. So all we have to do is have the will to do it, and to look for what we want to do. Consider bank loans in the, in the future. Also consider soft money grants. We don't have capacity right now to write grant proposals. But we could if we're a 501c3. We're a 504, something like that. And which is nice, but we're not a 501c3. There are many grants available to 501c3 nonprofit, low income, senior housing situations. So we should put together a program to go for that. We're supposed to be a low income resource in the county for housing. We have to maintain that somehow. We need to put together a program ourselves to research that. How are we going to do that? I have a lot of ideas, but this isn't the time for it. But I'm just saying, I'm putting it out there that there's a lot more. We could be much more creative than the city, or we have been, as to how we pay for things. And we haven't done that yet. Yes.
Excuse me. I think some of those items that you're discussing could very well be brought up at that June 19th meeting, if appropriate. So why don't you detail what those are? And Mary C. has asked about what's in the budget. The budget that is being presented by the staff to the city council tonight is on the website as part of the agenda, and they are recommending tonight a 5.7 increase in July 1st and another CPI increase in January 1st. Now, we actually don't know legally whether that can be done. In other words, the noticing requirements, and in the past, there's always been a 6-month noticing, meaning that with the budget passed in terms of a rent increase is not really initiated to the residents until January, or 6 months. And again, I suspect that may have something to do with the noticing requirements under Prop 218, but I think they're going to run into trouble if they try to carry forward with this 5.7% increase in July and then another CPI increase in January.
Jay, I need to comment on that if I could. The HCD law, the mobile home law from the state entity, says that residents in any mobile home park must be given a 90-day notice. And that the person the resident who called me about this today said, well, why did they vote or direct city staff to raise the rents starting July 1? And wouldn't the attorney object? And I said, well, it's because they did that at midnight and the city attorney had already left hours earlier, or else he would have said, oh, by the way, you can't do that. You need to give them more notice. So no matter what the budget says, they can't do it legally with any fewer than 90. And you're right, it might be 120.
John,
one more thing on the rent increase is that I think I recall this also in HCD is that they can't increase the rent twice in a 12-month period.
Okay, thank you. I just want to comment a little bit more on what the staff is proposing in the budget before tonight. They are proposing an increase. We're not quite sure where they're planning on getting these funds from, but to increase the budget for garbage, electricity, and gas. And I think the assumption is that somehow these increases could be passed through to the residents, which isn't the case at all. The residents are not billed for the water, but they are specifically billed for their use. And I don't see the logic or the legal standing for them simply to somehow increase the revenue from the budgeted electricity if it is metered out. So anyway, that's a question that we might pose to the city council in their consideration of the budget tonight.
Yes, Jay.
Yes.
Also on that, I don't think it is legal for the city council to do that because those are from if the city council, I mean, if the city had other enterprises besides Marin Valley, in other words, if the electricity was an internal organization within the city, or if the gas or water, any of those were, they would be enterprises within the city. And in most cities they are, but not Novato. So a lot of these people, I think, have been working in other cities where that's standard practice. But they can't do it here because it's the city has nothing to do with our utilities, quite frankly. They can't charge for utilities.
Again, as a general item, before anyone else says anything, I really would like to take other comments, but the idea is that they are going to just take a look at this tonight, what is being proposed by staff. And I think what we have to do is really hammer out these details at the 19th meeting that we're going to have with them to focus their attention on the legalities or the illegalities of what they're proposing to do. But the emphasis on staff at this point is just to maneuver things around to get to a DSCR of over 2.1. Now, 2.0. The staff was dictated to go to get one of 2.1, although the requirement under the bank loan is simply 2. Be that as it may. Again, I think that these items will be talked about and hammered out before the item is the budget is approved in our June 19th meeting, but we should make a list of them to get them on the agenda so that the staff and the city lawyer have to look at these things and come up with answers.
Can I just say something real quick?
Yeah, go ahead, Jen.
You're muted. There you go.
Okay. This paper called the Mobile Home Residency Law Protection Program came in our HCD bill. And everybody that lives here got one of those bills, right? It's the registration that we do besides the taxes. We get 2 of those things right around this time of year that we have to pay. This one's due, you pay $69 at the end of June, by the end of June, or it goes up in the next couple of months. Mobile Home Residency Law Protection Program. Look at that bill. You will find this paper in that bill. What is the Mobile Home Residency Law Protection Program? One whole side of this page is in English. The other whole side is in Spanish. And it's all about, there's a phone number, there's a website, Department of Housing and Community Development, P.O. Box in Sacramento. Everybody find this and look at it because it pertains exactly to what we're talking about.
Thank you. Comments? Jan Thomas. See your hand raised. Anil, I'll call you next.
It's Jan, I'm talking. I had to unmute myself. As far as what Laura's talking about, we all get that bill at different times. I think it depends on when we bought our homes. I'm not sure, mine comes in the fall. But I wanted to respond to John's comment about a 501c3 and ask that we not be discussing that right now. We have looked into that in the past. We actually have a 501c3. It's Marin Valley Senior Community, but it has not taken ownership of the park. That's because residents voted not to do that, but rather to have the city own the park. We did that in 2000. We consulted our attorney, I think, in 2006. We made the decision, I think, in 2008. All I can tell you is that It was horrible. It divided the whole park. We were at civil war. And right now we need to deal with the city and we need to be united. And let's not go to the 501c3 thing at this time, please. Let's not confuse the two issues. Thank you. That's all.
Carol Joy, did you want to have a comment?
Yeah, actually, that is not my memory. My memory is that it wasn't a vote of the park. It was a vote of the city council. They took ownership.
You see,
they just took title.
Jan, please. It's an issue that's not really on the table today.
Exactly.
And John is just voicing his opinion, and let's move on to what we have to deal with in the moment, which is any comments that we are going to have concerning the budget that is being presented by the staff as a preliminary budget for their consideration. I think what we have to say is, generally speaking, that there are some inconsistencies and factual errors perhaps in that proposed budget, and that while the city may accept the budget as presented by the staff, these items will be going over on the 19th, and hopefully will bring some light and some more truth to the budget that will be presented as a result of the workshop that we're going to be having with the city staff and the council.
Right. So let's agree not to get sidetracked. Thank you.
Excuse me, Jay, I have to leave.
Yes.
Mary, let's connect later this afternoon. I'll be home around 4.
Jay, correction, the workshop next week is not to talk about the budget. The workshop next week is to talk about long-term sustainability of the park.
Yeah, and it's also the capital aspect of the budget. And that's what my understanding of it is. And we're creating the agenda, by the way. And they're not approving the budget until after that meeting.
I know.
John Hanson.
Yeah, I just want to quickly mention that the city is still under the impression that the reserve is going to be paying for everything in the future, and that's why I brought this up, is to say that's not the only option that there is to pay for capital improvements. Is our rent fed reserves.
Right, and that we can discuss on the 19th with the city staff.
Yes,
and,
but they need to
council
know that tonight, that there's other options. So that, in other words, right now they're thinking that, gee, we have to have all this money for all the capital reserves. And it's not necessarily the case.
I think the only thing that's in front of them is the operating budget tonight. I don't think they're not approving anything, but the capital budget is not going to be massaged until after we have this meeting on the 19th. And that certainly opens the opportunity for us to talk about the operating budget, because the operating budget has been massaged by the city staff to come up with a DSCR of 2. And its massaging may not meet our needs. Bill Davis.
Thank you. Mary Kerr, you seem to understand the mechanics of government at the city and county level better than any of us here. What's your advice of how we should go forward tonight?
You were a little broken up at my end, Bill, but I think you've got, 2 things that you're deciding to do. And one is to have Steve make a statement at the beginning under public comments about the grand jury report, and a generic, we don't like it, we need to work with you on your response. And 2, under the budget public hearing, submit comments, line item issues, rent issues, whatever is being gathered here, and submit that as a one document from the PAC and community as our comments on the budget for consideration.
Would that be best served by a piece of paper being handed in, or somebody standing up and giving a report?
I think it would be really good to verbalize the top concerns. And, you know, you guys know what those are, I guess the rent stuff and the lack of an interest-bearing account. You know, whatever the big top things are should be highlighted, along with, you know, why is the sewer thing changed or whatever it might be. But definitely verbally highlight the big hitters.
And can I ask you to work with Steve when he gets back at 4 to pull together something like that? And take any other comments from, I think, Anila or Carol Joy that may pop out of this meeting?
I'm gonna have to bow out. I can do the intro statement for Steve, but not the budget stuff.
Okay.
I could look at it later and put an intro on it or polish it up a little bit later tonight.
Before the meeting, you mean?
Oh, wait a minute, that's tonight. Sorry. Yeah. Well, I mean, I sent some of it to Carol Joy already. I mean, what I had in writing. So, and I
Yeah.
think Steve has that as well. So you guys have it.
I thought it looked great, and I thought you sent it to everyone.
I
yeah,
did yesterday.
It
Carol
went.
Joy.
I'm sorry. The one. God, I have all these things. Well, anyway, I thought it looked great. And
yeah, I can dig it out and send it to you all again.
Okay. And as far as the budget things, Jay, the only other thing I got from anyone as far as any particular line item was someone was asking about the water. And I think Steve addressed that already. One of the questions someone asked, actually it was Mary Curry, was about the fire abatement, why that was being reduced, but Steve already addressed that. So anyway, I think Steve can pull that together pretty quickly, and Mary already did a great introduction. So we're good.
Good.
Jay,
Yes, Anila.
when I pull up the agenda, if you go to the website and pull up their agenda for the meeting tonight, at
Yes.
the very end, it says preliminary hearings, da, 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 da. And then at the very end, there's something called a work study session, and I have no idea what that is. Do any of you?
Yeah, that's the June 19th meeting that we're going to have here at the.
No, but it's on the agenda for the meeting tonight. Section J, general business, section K, commission's appointments, section L, work study session.
Well,
There's
I don't think
nothing under
pertains
it
to us.
though. It must be a pajama party. This can be after midnight.
At least. Okay, I just wondered if you knew.
I'm
No, I don't.
guessing that it has to do with their budget, the one that they went through item by item at the May 16th meeting. But I could be wrong about that. Mary, do you have any idea what that might be? A work study session?
I don't.
Okay. No problem.
I didn't even notice it.
Yeah.
Happy to send the PDF to anyone who wants it. Or the agenda, rather.
And it's on the, you just have to go Novato City Council and then go to agendas, and it's there.
It's easy.
Okay, so what I've gotten from this meeting is that Steve and Mary C are fine tuning a report on the grand jury, not a report, but a statement that Steve will make. And second of all, Steve is preparing comments concerning the budget that is going to be before them tonight in a very general fashion, with the idea that any discrepancies that we feel will be talked about in the workshop that we're going to have on the 19th. Everyone in agreement with that?
I just am resending to you guys the budget comments as I packaged them yesterday. So Steve can add or detract from that.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Someone just chatted, I don't know which Susan it is, maybe Sue Meyer or Sue, if residents show up tonight, what should we say?
Depends on what part of the meeting.
Yeah,
Well, actually, I think we kind of have a consensus that during the public comment section at the beginning of the meeting, that there will be one representative speaking for the PAC board and therefore the park, and that is Steve Ploker, addressing the fact that we have concerns about the grand jury report. Then when it gets to, and people correct me if I'm wrong, then when it gets to our part on the agenda about the budget, Steve will hand a piece of paper to the clerk for consideration by the council later, and he will highlight verbally a couple of our major concerns.
That's my understanding as well.
So if residents show up tonight, what should we say? Actually, maybe nothing. That it's more important that we all show up on Tuesday, the 19th at the clubhouse at 2 o'clock.
exactly.
And that's not to say that if anyone really feels strongly about saying anything tonight in public comment or on the budget, feel free to.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, the determination of the next PAC board meeting is actually going to be the 19th workshop, which we are going to agendize. And the regular PAC board meeting is going to be on Monday, July 3rd at 6 p.m. John Hanson.
Yeah, Jay had one more comment on the budget, and that is that you know, I can see somebody stayed up late night with a red pen to go through the budget to try to balance it, but it just needs a lot of work. There's a lot of things that are mostly maintenance things, like the sewer maintenance, concrete maintenance, road paving, so forth. Those are important. Those are really important to keep up with every year. If, for example, if potholes aren't filled, they turn into black holes for cars, you know, and transmissions. So, you know, the maintenance is important, and I would think that an engineer would understand that. But you know, when somebody's against has a gun to their head to basically to lower the budget, then they're not too discriminatory about what they do. And then another thing is canceling the humanitarian services fund. That, to me, that's very telltale. That okay, humanitarian services are for the most vulnerable among us, and here the, you know, just totally scratch off that that whole line item says that there's no concern really for the most vulnerable among us. So I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into the budget, but I have some real concerns with a lot of the cuts.
Yeah, and again, we're going to get this on the agenda to talk about on the 19th.
On the 19th. Mm-hmm.
And hopefully bring some clarity and some solutions. I mean, you know, the big elephant in the room, of course, is the fact that suddenly, unbeknownst to us, there's a huge insurance bill that should be paid out of the operating budget that hasn't been paid. And suddenly we're being billed for it out of our reserves. And the accounting of all of our accounts are thrown in disarray by this lack of transparency, which makes our view of approving budgets rather perfunctory, because we're approving something that doesn't have all of the information inclusive in it. So, I mean, we definitely need to work to help the city staff come up with reality figures for us to deal going forward. And it is very unfortunate if we haven't been able to budget for all these expenses and therefore have to take the axe to some of our budgetary yearly expenses that are going to really affect some of our residents. So we definitely have a lot of work to do on this budget on the 19th. Well, I see your Mary your hand up again. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Just quickly, I think, you know, what the city may be viewing you generally have the operating budget and the capital budget. And to John's point about roads, they may be putting the road type of thing into the capital budget because they can depreciate there. And it's easier for them to put it there. They can also perhaps get a grant. So some of that may be over in the capital side. And then I just wanted to say that I won't be here on the 19th. I wish you all the best. I'm happy to help strategize on the setting of the agenda if that helps you in any way. And I look forward to, helping you through this grand jury report formal response. I'll be gone for 10 or 12 days, but I'll be somewhat available, but not really. So thank you for letting me participate.
Yeah, Mary, I think it's going to be Zoomed anyway. So if you're in any place where you can listen into some of it, it would be probably helpful.
I'm going to be in Yellowstone, so I'm not sure how far in the back country I'll have to go.
To get away from us.
All right. Well, have a great time. Okay.
Jay?
Anila.
Do we have any idea how that insurance was paid previous to the past 5 years? Was it not a line item on our budget?
What they're claiming, Anila, is that they have been paying it and not telling the Helsing Group that the policy even existed.
Since when?
That's
The
a good
past 20
question.
years?
We have no idea. The ledgers that we've seen only go back 2 or 3 years. They don't go back way, way back.
And as far as we're concerned, we've never paid it.
Well, as far as they're concerned, they paid it and never told us that they paid it.
Right.
And they're going back and clawing that money back out of our reserve funds.
Much like they took the 457,000 from our reserve funds. So they took almost $500,000, or now like basically $500,000, and maybe more that we don't know about yet. Going back to fiscal year 2017-18, as that was in a supplement to the agenda to a PAC board meeting 1 or 2 meetings ago. And they just said, oh, by the way, we forgot to, well, they didn't use the word forgot, but they omitted billing us for it. So they just took that money out of our account and moved it over to their account because they can.
And they didn't tell us the detail. They didn't tell us how much of it was for this, how much of it was for that, and what city agencies did what to create the billing.
Yeah. So, and someone said to me, a resident sent a long email to the PAC board saying, why haven't you asked for this? Oh my gosh. And my answer is the same thing. We have asked and asked and asked and asked for detailed billings. We constantly ask. And if you read the grand jury report, you will see that the finance department has 2 employees and they're trying to catch up on a backlog of years. So, I mean, we know why that, yeah, they're understaffed. They are understaffed. They're not just saying they're understaffed. They're really understaffed. So.
But when you try to balance books, if it comes out close, if you're an accountant, close doesn't count.
Right.
Because you never know what all the errors are. So when I see something like that, I wonder, okay, what are the rest of the errors in there? And why are we taking the brunt of that before we understand what balances out and why?
Well, again, because they can, and they did. And
Because because they think they can, because we are an enterprise account. They can't do that without justification. And they've tried to create justification to do that, apparently. I don't know, just don't have the information, but it just doesn't look good. Yeah,
Problematic.
exactly.
Okay, are we done here? Mary Curry.
Sorry, I just had one more thing. I just wanted to say that, you know, looking at the big picture of us being part of the city of Novato and the city of Novato facing that terrible report, I think it's going to be in our best interest to support them in increasing the sales tax, trying to figure out what the hell they did to screw up the property tax flowing to them. They have the lowest percentage of every community in Marin. So I think that's where we can be supportive to the city, is saying, look, we're part of the city. We're going to help you with bigger fish. We're a little minnow. So that can be part of the perspective in the response to the grand jury. It's like, just take us off the list. We're nothing. And go for the big fish. So
well, we are a little fish, but we do have a $5 million account there that just happens to stick up there like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
Especially to someone with a $5 million budget deficit going into next fiscal year.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I vaguely remember when the whole thing was passed over to the city. The reason why this was put in a non-interest bearing account was because it was something legal. They could not get interest from I have no idea.
I think that's true, Anila. That's my memory too, but I'm not sure. And so
Can I
that's the
clarify?
question
Can I
that we have of
clarify?
them.
Can I clarify? The clarification is that a city or a municipality or a government agency cannot borrow money and then turn around and invest that money for interest income. Our surplus is generated by our own enterprise fund, and therefore can be invested and derive a interest income.
But it's got to be a conservative investment, and they haven't even done that.
Okay, well, so that's another issue. I just, one last thing, Jay, about the next board meetings, because that's where we are on the agenda. I wanted to make a general statement that because now there are fewer than 40 people, but there were almost 60. There were 60 people on this call.
62.
I wanted to tell the people here, and again, tell your friends that going forward, there will be a PAC list that is basically everyone who has shared their email list in the directory. And so in the past, it's been an opt-in email list, but going forward, I'm working on getting all the email addresses on the PAC agendas and minutes list, so that in the future you will have to opt out. So I just want everyone to know that all your friends will be getting these minutes and agendas as well, and that if they really choose not to participate and know what's going on, they're going to have to let me know.
Thank you, Caltrai. So again, next regular meeting will be on July 3rd. We're going to have a workshop agendized on the 19th, and we're going to prepare agenda and send it out. Anyone who has comments concerning that agenda on the 19th should forward them to Carol Joy or to myself, or literally to any other PAC board member, and they'll forward it on to myself and Carol Joy. And with that, I'd like to call for adjournment.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Comment? Any last comments? All right. All in favor of the adjournment?
Everyone.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much for your